All right, folks. Well, it's 10:05. We're going to go ahead and get started. And again, we're so glad and happy that you could join us today. Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the intended audience for today's call are those that would have been, hey, if they've seen it before, that's great. But the intended audience are those that have become part of a broadband committee at the county level, but did not probably see the presentation that we had when we went. Is that correct?
That's correct, except for our friends in Union County who are really passionate about this project, just from my exposure to their Facebook group. So they've gathered everyone together at the Chamber of Commerce, if I'm not correct, to hear what you've got to say.
All right, cool. Well, again, we appreciate it, everyone. Typically, again, we're going to pretend like we're in Saline County today, and we would normally go through the audience and have everyone introduce themselves. But what we will do is we'll introduce our team one by one really quickly, and then we'll get into it. So I'm Glenn Howey, State Broadband Director. I've been in this role since August of last year. And the year before that, I was part of a team that helped to establish the Louisiana Broadband Office down there and get them off the ground with those guys. That was a very fun experience, sort of starting that office, being a part of that endeavor. And the goal for us coming to Arkansas is sort of replicate what we did there and hopefully go above and beyond what we did there. So it's been a great move for me professionally and personally, and couldn't be happier to be here. Lori.
Yeah, so I'm Lori Ringler, and I'm the project manager for the state. I've been in my role since December, so I've made it past my 6-month anniversary at this point. I've spent the last 15 years before joining the broadband office working for the corporate office of an ISP that had an office here in Little Rock. So I was on the administrative team. I did a lot of project managing and applying for grants from the state and working with fiber networks and that kind of stuff. So I have a little bit of technical experience. I'm from Arkansas, born and raised in Cabot. So, I've had the joy of giving Glenn like the complete tour of Arkansas the last few months, but it's been great and I enjoy what I do here. But thank you all for coming.
All right. Lane, if you have the capability, you want to do a quick intro?
There we go. I'm Lane Bailey. I'm new with the Arkansas Broadband Office. I'm the broadband grants program manager, and I'm here to listen to my first roadshow. So I look forward to working with everybody here.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Lane. And Kimberly, if you have the capability, if you want to introduce yourself real quick. Putting her on the spot. Okay. Maybe she can't get it. I know she's off site today, and that's okay. So robust team of 4. We had 2 until last December, and then added Lori in December, and then Lane last month. So a rapidly bursting office. So, all right, to get going, Broadband Arkansas, beyond the 3 pillars. So what's our vision for the state moving forward, right? We have a great alignment between the administration, General Assembly, state government of where we want to go as a state as it relates to broadband. And for us, our vision and mission, it's very simple on its face, but complex in how we get there, is to eliminate the digital divide in Arkansas by 2028. Okay, now I know that can come across as a very kind of a puffed up, kind of an empty phrase, right? And I appreciate that. So what does it mean from a tactical and actionable standpoint to truly eliminate the digital divide in Arkansas by 2028? It starts about thinking differently about what broadband is. Okay. Look, these last several years, if a state has had a broadband office, right? Some haven't. That's why we had to go create one in Louisiana. Arkansas was a state that fortunately has had one these last several years. But if a state has had an office, the sole focus to date has been around running these infrastructure grants, right? And I'm sure some of you are aware of this. These last several years, Arkansas has been running several rounds of grants. And we'll talk about some of those stats in a second. So some through the federal level, some through the state office with federal dollars. That's been the sole focus, right? Just running infrastructure grants. It's needed. And we'll talk about why from both a stat standpoint at the state level and a county snapshot for Saline County in a second. But really the broadband issue is much more holistic and broad than just simply infrastructure. The broadband itself is also an affordability issue and a digital skills issue. Okay, so look, we can make Arkansas, all right, the most wired state in the whole country. Okay, we can run fiber to every single home and business in the state. Okay, but if some of our people can't afford it, right, that's a problem and an issue that we have to kind of focus on. We can run the fiber for folks. We can make it free for people. Okay, but some of our people don't have the devices that they need or the digital skills to operate those devices properly, or simply don't want to subscribe because they don't understand how it can impact their lives for the better, right? We have to attack that issue as well. So as a state, yes, we've done a great job in infrastructure build out these last several years, and we're going to have to keep doing it. The stats tell us why in a second, but it's also an affordability issue and a digital skills issue. And as a state, we have to focus on all three at the same time. And we sort of frame them as the three pillars of broadband. Okay. So quickly at a statewide look, when we think about the three pillars across all three, if you look at the access piece or the infrastructure piece, like we talked about these last several years, there's been over $1 billion in broadband infrastructure grant awards since 2020. Okay. Now, again, some of that's through our office. Some of it is other federal programs, but in totality, about $1 billion in grant awards to about 330,000 locations across the state. Now, not all that's been built out yet. There's different programs with different timelines. And sometimes this can get very complicated and very nuanced, depending upon where you live. And we have a great illustration that's a true story. I'm not making it up. We have a very fine gentleman down in Hempstead County that calls our office at least once a week. And we have a very nice, spirited, animated conversation with him every week, and I appreciate it. And here's the dilemma. Okay. He lives a couple or so hundred feet north of County Road, I think it's 78, down in Hempstead County. And the county road is the dividing line, okay, between the census block that he lives in and the census block that his neighbor lives in across the street. Neighbor across the street, okay, their census block was the recipient of one of our grants through our office, okay? And they're building fiber because of our project right now at the road. And some people are coming in, so we're admitting some that's why I'm stumbling a little bit, but because we're admitting extra people. So the issue with this gentleman in Hempstead County, right, is that he lives in a different census block than his neighbor does across the street. And now the fire alarm's going off. So we'll see what happens. Fantastic. Anyway, let me get back to the story. So the road in the county is the dividing line between his census block and the census block across the street that his neighbor lives in. And they're in different programs, and that's the issue, okay? The neighbor across the street is in a grant award through our office, and they're building fiber at the road. That's right, he sees it, right? He sees the fiber getting built, and that's why he calls in every week. It's like, look, they're building fiber. What's the deal? The issue is that his census block that he lives in is the recipient of an entirely different grant through a different program, okay, called the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund Program. That particular program, which is a federally awarded grant, specifically between the FCC and the Internet Service Provider, or ISP, okay? So our office, for instance, has no control over that program because it's a federal program between the federal agency or the commission and the ISP directly. So that's where the money flows. That's where the relationship exists. That's where the accountability exists, okay? That particular program also has a 6-year time frame to build. Okay, so here's the dilemma, is that the neighbor across the street, who's a part of our program, may get hooked up tomorrow. He may not get hooked up for 6 years, potentially, right? Because it's a different grant program in a different census block with different rules, different funding, the whole thing. That's how complicated this can get. Sometimes as close as a neighbor to a neighbor, depending upon the grant program for that particular location. All right, so I just want to point that out as we go. On the affordability piece, look, Lori can't go in and tell the local co-op or Windstream that they can only charge $20 a month for a gig service symmetrical, right? We can't do that, nor we want to do that in a free market economy. But there's certain things that we can do to try to bring down prices for people and through our office. And so as ISPs continue to apply to our office to build out broadband infrastructure moving forward, we're going to award more points in the scoring process. So when we get these applications in, they get scored over several criteria, okay, and they compete against each other. One of the scoring things that we look at is the cost of internet packages to the consumer when the project's over, right? So the lower the prices are for you to subscribe to when the project's done, the more points that application would receive in the process, and the more likely to get funded. The short story is an ISP is more likely to win a grant from us and be able to go build broadband to you if they offer lower prices to you when the project's over. Because that's one way through our office that we can try to bring down prices for people across the state. Secondly, there is a program called the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP program. That particular program allows for a $30 per month discount off of your internet bill each month if you qualify under several criteria. There's 7 or 8 criteria in total. 2 that we always like to touch on are: 1, if a student receives free or reduced lunch in the local school system, that particular household would be eligible for the discount each month. If a college student receives a Pell Grant in the calendar year, that particular household would be eligible for the discount program. So total, you look statewide, over the 7 or 8 different criteria, we think there's over 600,000 households that qualify for the Affordable Connectivity Program, or ACP program. To date, we have just under 180,000 households that have enrolled. So we still have a lot of work to do, right? We still have several 100,000 households that could benefit from this particular program, but aren't. So we got an A, both the state office and our community partners, right, such as yourselves. We all have to do a better job of A, talking about the program, and B, letting people know that it exists and helping to get them across the finish line if they qualify. Okay, and lastly, this is super important, folks. When we think about small business development, workforce, economic growth in our rural communities, and urban communities, as a matter of fact, we think if you look at the traditional working ages of 18 to 64, we think there's about 274,000 Arkansans between the traditional working ages of 18 and 64 that lack basic digital skills. Okay, I'm not talking about coding or creating a website. We're just saying take the mouse, go to Google, apply for a job, right? Basic digital skills. Okay, so we have a lot of work to do there. So again, thinking more holistically about the issue of broadband, the access piece, the affordability piece, and the digital skills piece that we all have to work on all at the same time as a state moving forward. Now, typically when we're on the road, we bring up what we call a one-pager for our local county that talks about these 3 statistics for the county itself, because we have these numbers broken down at the county as well. Again, as I said earlier, we're pretending today that we're in Saline County. So if you look at Saline County, and again, this is a breakdown document that we have at every visit that we did, and we can provide this to anyone that's on the call today. As a follow-up, just real quick, Lori is going to send a communication out to everyone who's attending today that will include a whole bunch of information on everything that we're talking about, plus this stuff. So I just want to throw that out there. But looking at Saline County, we have on the access piece or infrastructure piece, we still think there's about 5,400 locations in Saline County that either need to get built to for the first time because the infrastructure is not there, or they need to get upgraded because what they do have is not standard for today. All right, so we still have a lot of work to do in Saline County on the access piece. On the affordability piece, we think there's about 10,400 households in Saline County that are eligible for that monthly discount through the ACP program. to date, a little over 3,100 have enrolled, right? So we still have over 7,000 households in Saline County that could benefit from the affordability program to help make it a little less expensive for folks. So we have work to do there, right? And lastly, on the digital skills piece of this thing, we think in Saline County, in the traditional working ages of 18 and 64, there's over 10,000 residents in the county that lack basic digital skills. Okay, again, impacting small business growth, entrepreneurship, economic development, and the workforce. So we have a lot of work to do there. Okay. So again, statewide, a look at the three pillars. At the county level, a look at the three pillars. And look, we know we're framing them as all being equal, and they are, and we have to attack all three at the same time. We know that the access piece is still the most foundational, the most critical for what we have to do. If you look statewide, as of last month, and the latest release from the FCC on their mapping, there's still about 215,000 locations, homes and businesses, they still have nothing that we have to go build to for the first time or upgrade, because what they do have is just not standard for today. Okay. Now, when we're on the road, typically we stop right here because I know it can be a lot at first. It's a lot of stats at the state level, a brief look at what the county level stat looks like. So we typically stop here and just take questions, quick Q&A for anything, any early insights or questions that may have popped up or anything you're thinking about. So we'll just take a minute and 30 seconds or so, we'll check the chat box. If you have anything that you want to chat in and ask a question, just let us know. And we'll move on in about 30 to 45 seconds.
The fire alarm is going off yet again, everyone. So it's been going off all week, though. Don't be worried about us.
Looks like we have. All right, so Trevor is saying, so just to be sure, the number has been reduced from 269 to 215 locations. That is correct. So on the November release of the map from FCC, for those that have seen it before, this slide used to say 269,000 locations. As of the latest release from last month from the FCC, that number has been reduced down to 215,000 locations. And these numbers can get very nuanced. And kind of some of the details that you get into, but yes, in short, the number has been reduced from 269 to 215,000. It's the last update from the FCC on that. Caitlin says, are the Pell Grants you mentioned based on, I'm assuming FAFSA? Yeah, so again, any college student that is receiving a Pell Grant through the federal government in the current calendar year, the household they belong to is automatically eligible for that ACP discount program, right? So one of the things that we need to do, for example, in our office is do active outreach to all the state universities and colleges, including the two-year community colleges and tech schools, to let them know, right, that that's a criteria that counts. So they can let all their students know who are receiving Pell Grants that they're eligible, right? That's just an example of one of the things that our office needs to do, needs to work on. So the short answer to your question is yes. Let's see, Daryl says, I'm interested in any plans Ritter may have for Northern Searcy County. Yeah, so super specific question on that. And we will be able to potentially talk offline about ways to connect with Ritter and talk about Searcy County. So we can definitely make a note of that and talk about that. And Hal says, let's see. Yeah, so the FCC does put their map together via information that the ISPs submit to them. And so we know, for instance, that may not always be 100% accurate, right? And we appreciate that fact. So one of the things the state is going to do is before we run, and we'll talk about this a little bit in the second half, but before we run another grant round for the state moving forward to build out infrastructure, we're going to put out a map from the state and allow for challenges to that map, right? Which is one of the kind of goes to the homework and stuff we're going to talk about in the second half. So we'll probably be able to mention more information about what you're looking for, how in the second half. Who takes care of the grant? All right, so Kendall is asking who takes care of the grants for the residents, who is responsible for them to apply. Okay, so if we're talking about the infrastructure grants to go build out broadband where it's needed, what's going to happen is the ISPs, or the internet service providers, okay, are going to be the ones that are going to apply to our office to get an award to then go build out in the local communities. Okay, that's how it's going to work for the infrastructure portion of this. Thank you. All right, good question round. Appreciate that. And Lori, do you want to take a stab at this next piece?
Well, sure, Glenn. So, the reason that we're doing all this work and while we've visited all 75 counties and the things that you're going to hear about, the processes and everything that we've got going on has everything to do with the infrastructure build from back in 2021. I don't know if you saw the news this week, but on Monday, the White House announced that Arkansas was going to be receiving $1 billion, just over $1 billion. I think, Glenn, it's like 1.024 is the official number, billion. But and that money is designated to complete the infrastructure build out across the state. So with that, we are going to connect every single household and business, all the locations, to reliable, high-speed internet service. We cannot leave anyone behind. That's, basically the mantra of this whole process and what the BEAD program, which is what this money comes from, is about. And the BEAD program is the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment Act. The country as a whole received over, I think it was like $42 billion. And so, the fact that Arkansas got a whole billion out of that is very good news for us and definitely shows that we're going to get enough money to get this job done for the whole entire state. Right now, the way the experts and kind of the cost estimates that we use, we think it's going to cost about $700 million to complete building service to all of those 215,000 locations that Glenn mentioned a little bit ago. So, if you are easily doing the math, we do have a little bit of a surplus there, which is going to be helpful, especially if supply chain issues continue, if workforce issues continue, if project costs go up. On top of that, we expect there to be a lot of growth in our economy because, with broadband becomes more accessible, that's going to clearly bring jobs and other opportunities for our residents. The other part of the BEAD program that we're going to be receiving funding for is for digital opportunity and skills. So this is going to be a grant that we're going to develop some programs based off of. But in the meantime, we're working on plans for that. And, this is kind of another reason why we're gathering all of our counties together and speaking to as many people as possible, because we need your help. We need your input. So with the digital opportunity funds, currently we're in a planning process, and you'll see surveys going out from us and from our partners. There's listening sessions going on. There's focus groups going on all across the state from now through July. And part of this process and planning, the U.S. Department of Commerce has required us to meet with certain populations that you see listed there. So, we're supposed to meet with rural residents and our veterans and our disabled people, our incarcerated folks, or people that just came out of jail or prison that are trying to get back into the workforce. Our individuals over the age of 60, are severe poverty households that live below 150% of the federal poverty guideline. All of our efforts as it relates to digital opportunity and skills right now are focused on these populations, because we have to develop programs to lift these people up and help and increase their digital skills and their education levels, so that as broadband becomes more accessible, they'll have the skills to use it and make their lives better. So if Glenn throws out the number 87.4, because this is Glenn's favorite part of the presentation,
Right.
Just go put in the chat. What do you think that number represents? Any ideas?
always, look, it's my favorite part of the presentation. We always throw this up. If you had to guess what 87.4 might represent when we think about broadband and the state of Arkansas, what does that look like? What would be your best guess? We get a lot of different things. The temperature we wish it was outside. That is fantastic, Lori. Absolutely. A percent of sorts. Yeah, Trevor. So 87.4% of all Arkansans fit, and Lori, if you want to go back up real quick, or can I do it? 87.4% of all Arkansans fit into at least one of the categories listed on the screen, right? So either the rural, has a disability, is a veteran, etc. Right? So over 2.6 million of our folks fit into at least one, right, or more of those categories. So the short story is we have a lot of work to do, right? If we think about the 215,000 locations that still need to get built to for the first time or upgraded because it's not there. If we think about several 100,000 households that could benefit from the ACP program, that monthly discount program, if we think about the 274,000 Arkansans between the traditional working ages of 18 and 64 that lack basic digital skills, we got a lot of work to do. Okay, so just we like to throw that out there. And it's not going to be an entirely easy process or something that can get fixed tomorrow, right? This is a lengthy process. That's why the vision at the beginning was to eliminate the divide by 28. That gives us 5 calendar years starting next year to wrap this thing up. So if that's the case, 2023 is really our year of planning. Now, normally we talk about we tease the groups a little bit about having homework and that they didn't know about, and that it's really exciting. You are all aware of this already because you're on the call today. The whole point of this thing, as Lori iterated a second ago, was that we want every county in Arkansas to form its own broadband committee. I think as of yesterday when I asked you, Lori, you said we have about 30, or is that number going up at all?
I added 3 more today, so we're probably
Okay.
30, 35 now.
All right, so we're somewhere between 30 and 35 counties that have already formed their broadband committees. And look, y'all, I would put this up against any state in the country. Some states have gone to every county, not all of them have. Certainly, I don't believe there's anyone else, no other office has gone to every county and wants every county to form its own committee to work with us in a partnership model. So we should, as a state, we should be very proud of the work that we're going to do together collaboratively moving forward. But if 23 is our year of planning, Lori talked a second ago about the 2 buckets of funding that are going to be most impactful for Arkansas, that $1 billion that we're going to get to build out infrastructure once and for all to every home and business that needs it, and the 20 million or so that's dedicated to digital opportunity programming. The easiest way to think about that is anything other than infrastructure. So the extras, okay? Those 2 buckets of funding, because we have access to those 2 buckets of funding, we have to develop 2 different plans to actually get the money, all right, and work for Arkansas. So 23, this is what it looks like. Right now, we're having our county committees getting formed. On Monday, U.S. Commerce announced $1 billion for us officially. These next couple of months, we're going to do the focus groups like we talked about a second ago. Our first draft, sort of very rough draft of what we think sort of our plans on the infrastructure side and other ideas would be is due late August. Okay, and we're now putting pen to paper than that. We're starting to draft some of that. The digital opportunity plan for the state of Arkansas is due mid-November, okay? And then the more robust, sort of more detailed infrastructure plan for the state moving forward is due end of the year, okay? So 23, this second half of 23 for us is truly sort of our half year of planning to set us up moving forward over the next 5 years. And that's why we're doing this. And that's why we had the homework, because the way that we want to design this thing is at the grassroots level, okay? We don't think necessarily that the best way to produce a plan for the state of Arkansas is sort of a one-size-fits-all, top-down approach to this thing, okay? We want to do it from the ground up at the grassroots level. So as we're drafting these plans, as we finish our draft of the sort of rough draft that's due end of August, we're going to share it with you. We're going to say, please read it. Give us feedback. What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? How would you want to improve it? How could we change it? Right? As we're working on this digital opportunity plan, and we're drafting it and have it ready to go. We're going to share it with you, and we want you to read it. Give us feedback. What do you like? What do you not like? How can we change it? Look, U.S. Commerce, which is the department responsible for the dollars, has given us a sandbox that we have to play in with some rules that go along with that, but that doesn't mean that we can't play on the edge of the sandbox a little bit, okay? And we're going to come to you. So in addition to helping us read through our plans and giving us feedback and helping us make it better, we're going to come to you and say, okay, county committee, we got more for you. We got more homework for you. All right. So how does Saline County or Columbia County or every county, how do you want to try to attack those hundreds or thousands of folks and households who need to hear about the affordability program? What does that look like in your county? Because look, you know your people, right, and your neighbors and the barriers that you face and potential solutions to those problems better than our team does in Little Rock, and certainly better than Washington, right? So we want to come to you and say, how do you want to try to talk about affordability in your county and let people know, what does that look like? Okay, county committee, we've got 10,000 folks between the traditional working ages of 18 and 64 that need digital skills help, right? What are some ideas that you think may work in your county? What does that look like, right? What are your ideas to help reach those people? Does it involve the libraries, right? Does it involve the school system? Thinking about places that already have computers, already have facilities, who wants to be involved, nonprofits, what does it look like at your level, okay? These are examples of how we're going to try to work together as a state broadband office and as a county broadband community to make this thing the best that it can be. And then we're going to come to you again and we're going to say, okay, county committee, look, we may have a little bit of excess funding, as Lori talked about a second ago. We're going to get $1 billion to do this broadband build out that needs to happen across the state. What if we have some extra? What if there's a little excess there? It's not guaranteed, but what if we do? And if we do, what are some interesting priorities that the county committee is interested in? And when we've done these trips, we've heard different stuff and everywhere we go, and that's okay. We were in Jonesboro and they mentioned, hey, you know, team, if you guys have some extra dollars, we'd be super interested in Wi-Fiing up our parks and trail system. Okay, look, if we have extra dollars and that's a priority for that particular county, great, let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do. We were in Huntsville and they had mentioned that, you know, in their county, sometimes the emergency communications can be kind of spotty. So sheriff's deputies and first responders sometimes have trouble communicating with each other about where they're going in certain locations. Okay, look, if we have extra dollars and that's a priority for that particular county, let's talk about it. We were in Jasper, I believe, a few weeks back, and they had mentioned, hey, look, if you have extra dollars, you know, we'd be super interested in Wi-Fiing up our downtown square. If we think about small business growth and quality of life and economic development, we think that would be a winner for us. Okay, look, if we have extra dollars and that's an option for us, let's talk about it. The point is, every county can come up with different ideas, and that's okay because we have some flexibility in what we propose to the federal government, what they call alternative uses. Essentially, if you have extra dollars, you know, you can propose things that you want to try to do with it. Now, we should say that if we have extra dollars, it has to be spent on broadband projects, okay? They can't go spend it on, you know, building a bridge or a road, which needs to happen, right? But this money is dedicated specifically for broadband projects, okay? So we have to keep that in mind. But we do have some flexibility within the broadband universe, okay? So we're going to come to you, the point is, and ask you for interesting priorities for your county. We'll talk about that. Okay? Just a couple of other key things to get your head spinning a little bit. Some interesting ideas. We kind of picked out 4 key focus areas as a state: education, healthcare, small business, and agriculture. So for instance, in the agriculture space, these are interesting ideas for extra dollars that may be available, right? So in agriculture, could we potentially put up cell towers across the state that would ensure 100% cellular connectivity of every agricultural field in Arkansas? Maybe, if we have enough money. Sure, what does that look like? If we do that, can it help crop yields and precision agriculture, right? In healthcare, how can we think of broadband as not only an asset or a platform, but also as an enabler to try to tackle the mental health issues that exist in Arkansas or the drug abuse issues that permeate our communities? How can we increase preventative care in our rural communities that needs to happen, right? So thinking innovatively, thinking creatively about how, as a state, we can potentially take any excess broadband dollars, use it in the broadband universe to try to help these 4 key focus areas and our people. At the end of the day, look, the short story is if we're going to be a state that may be, okay, in the fortunate position to have extra dollars, not every state's going to be that way. There are some states that are not going to get enough to do their bill just because of how the formula worked, okay? If we're going to be a state that potentially is fortunate enough to have extra dollars, we have to make sure we do the best job we can to impact the most people with the most positive outcomes possible. Okay, that's the goal for us. So yes, we're going to build or upgrade every home and business that needs it. And beyond that, if we have extra dollars, we need to make sure we're doing everything possible through our office and through our county committees to have the most positive impact we can for our people. Okay. Typically, this is where we would have a paper copy of what we call the broadband toolkit that we would give to typically the county judge at our visit. This toolkit, about 20 pages in total. There it is. That's what it looks like. We put it together for everybody. The first half of the broadband toolkit walks through general information, right? What is broadband? How is it different from the internet? Is Elon Musk going to save everyone, right? Stuff like that. A little fun too. The second half walks you through how to organize yourself as a county, how to form a committee. What does that look like? Now, we don't dictate to you, right? This is not a dictation from us. We're not going to tell you you have to have such and such person with so many people, but we give you suggestions. We give you recommendations. So we're going to say, look, you're going to need county leadership, municipal leadership, general assembly leadership. You're going to want folks that represent agriculture, healthcare, small business, education, your first responders. You're going to want people from the library system on there. You can have ISPs if you want to. It's not required. It's up to you. Everyday residents that are super, fed up or passionate about the issue, that's okay too. They can be a part. Everybody's voice is important. The overarching point is that you want a nice cross representation of the entire county to be involved on this committee and work in partnership with us. Okay, it walks you through how to organize, the types of people we would recommend be involved. It kind of walks you through appointing a leader, what we call a digital navigator for that particular group. And then it gives you about 7 or 8 other kind of first action items to work through as a group. You want to set a regular sort of communication schedule and communication meetings. So how often do you communicate with your county and your residents? Are you using Facebook? Do you do newsletters, emails, and so forth? What does that look like? You want to get on a regular schedule to meet every so often. So again, it walks you how to organize, the people we recommend be on it, and gives you some action items to get you started. Okay. And we really envision this, again, just to reiterate, is a very collaborative partnership model between our county committees and our office. Okay. So again, like we said earlier, you know your neighbors and yourselves, the barriers you face and solutions that you may be interested in better than us. And that's okay. So we envision this as a very collaborative partnership way to finish this thing up. And to wrap, before we go to questions, we can talk about what everybody, any way you want to take it, and that's fine because we got time. How's this different from before, right? We have, we've heard this from a lot of folks. We've been to 25 meetings. We've taken 12 surveys. There's been 1,400 rounds of grants, right? I still don't have internet. How's this different from before? You're saying the same stuff. I understand. 3 reasons, okay? 1, we're finally going to have enough money to finish the job once and for all, okay? 2, thinking about the broadband issue more holistically. It's not just the access piece. Yes, it's important. We got to do it, and we'll keep doing it and finish the job. But it's also about affordability, and it's also about digital skills. So 2 is thinking more holistically about what we're doing as a state moving forward. And 3 is empowering our local counties and our local communities to get involved, organize yourselves, to form committees, and work in partnership with our office to help solve this thing by 2028. Okay, that's how this is different from before. And look, our offices at the state level, we all talk to each other all the time about what's going on. again, I would put up how we're organizing this thing in Arkansas up against any state in the country. I think we're going to have some of the best plans in the country because we're doing it at the grassroots level, working in partnership with our folks, and no one else is doing it like this to this level and this depth with this organization. And so we're going to have some of the best plans in the country. We can't wait to work with you to move this thing forward. So with that, we'll roll up. And Lori, I don't know if we have the chance to, there's not that many folks on this call. I don't know if we can unmute everyone or allow them to go ahead and speak if they want to.
Let me see if I can find out how to do that.
While we work on that, I'll look through, and on the follow-up email that we always send out after these meetings, everyone gets a copy of the toolkit. So it's not just, I don't want people to think it's just a paper copy that the judge gets, right? Everyone gets a digital copy, so everyone gets to read it, plus all the other resources that we're going to get you. Let's see.
Okay, I have opened cameras and microphones for everyone.
Okay. I'll read through real quick, just for everyone. We're going to read through the questions that are on the screen first, and then we'll stop and we can go to, if you want to type them in, that's fine. Or if you want to speak, perhaps raise your hand if you want. But we will read through these questions first and then go from there, okay?
Hey, Glenn, so
yeah.
I think I've answered a lot of it. Kendall asked, who will be responsible for taking care of the grant process, like a point of contact at the county level?
Yeah, so it's a broad question, and that depends upon which grant you're talking about. I'm assuming we're talking about the infrastructure grant piece. So how that's going to work is, at least right now, right on the whiteboard scenario, okay? We're talking about, yeah, hey, Kendall.
Hey, my question is, any grant process that we're doing, we got through 2 or 3 grant processes, Homeland Security grants and everything like that. My question is it the committee going to be responsible for the grant process for at the county level, or the county judge, or is that going to be the state with you guys?
Correct. So for the grant process itself, the state is going to run that process. So what will happen is, yeah, the state will run the process on the grants. Yes.
Okay. So there will be no point of contact at county level needed. So the committees that you're going to form is basically going to be someone to give you answers to your questions, correct?
Yeah, feedback, answers to questions, ideas as we're drafting this stuff, like the plans that we have to make as a state. We're going to share that with you. We want your feedback on it. We're going to look, and there are some committees that have sort of taken the bull by the horns. We call them our sort of gold star committees that are early out of the gate really fast. For instance, we're going to connect you with committees that are doing different things. But yeah, short answer is we're going to lean on you to help think through ideas, give us feedback, work with us, even maybe do some programs and such at the county level. And look, one of the things that I haven't talked about, I kind of skipped over, was this mapping process. And I think I talked about it briefly. One of the most critical things that we're going to have to do as a state and the county committees is this mapping process. So the state is going to probably late summer, early mid-fall release sort of a state new broadband map, okay, that when it comes out, we're going to say, okay, county committee, we put out the state map, we put out the local county map. Here's what it looks like. We need your help to help make it right. Because you're going to know, right? Certain parts of your county, your communities where there's no connection at all, or it's really bad. You're going to know that better than we will. And our information is going to be based on what the providers are telling us. All right, so that's an example of another action that we're going to have to do in tandem with our county committees and allow folks to challenge the map and let us know where it's not right and what does that look like. But specific to grants, the state will kind of run the grant program. It'll be different from how it was done in years past. In the old days, I mean 2 years ago, there was a component where the county judge or the mayor had to sort of partner with the provider to submit the application to the state. That's not how it's going to function moving forward. The state is going to sort of manage that process on our side. So there won't be a particular role on the grant for the local folks.
That's great. That's great.
Taking that off your back.
Yes, that's taking a lot off my plate. I sure appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Kendall, does that mean that you're like ready to go? Like you're in Sebastian County, right?
Yeah, Sebastian County we don't have the problems that a lot of the rural counties do. You know, we're
Yeah,
pretty well taken care of.
so that's what I was thinking that really, y'all's focus is going to be more on the affordability piece and the digital skills piece and what we can do to increase those numbers in the county.
Yeah, I think we're going to form our committee through the REPC. We got in the county, so we got 150 people, businesses, leaders through that, so we can we'll probably go that route.
Okay, great. Yeah, and on that brings up a good point. So again, either within a week, I normally say, Lori always likes to probably do it the next day or the day after, but within a week, everyone, and maybe they already have it, but we'll resend it to them, that's fine, is that follow-up communication from us, just to make sure they have all the stuff. I was gonna say, we're gonna ask the counties for the committee members, but these are folks who are gonna be on it anyway, right? So, in theory. Let's see. Tiffany, will the state send us specific questions that the county committees will need to answer for the grant process? Yeah, look, it's gonna be an ongoing thing. So we're gonna interact with you a whole lot. Lori's gonna be the main point of contact, at least for now, until we grow the office a little more perhaps and hire, a couple of more folks. Lori's gonna be the main point of contact with our county committees, and we're gonna communicate a lot. We're starting the Arkansas Broadband Leaders Network, or ABLN network. That we're gonna have meetings every 2 weeks, like this, sort of Teams calls every 2 weeks. Our first one's gonna kick off today, right? First one's today at 2 o'clock. So first one's today at 2 o'clock. We have a brief program. Additionally, what's gonna happen with that, it's another communication channel. So every 2 weeks, we're gonna have a call with all of our committee members across the state and other stakeholders that we're gonna grow the group as we move, but it's called the Arkansas Broadband Leaders Network, or ABLN. And that's a way for us every 2 weeks to talk. 1 week will be programming, so we're gonna have speakers come in and present to you on different topics that you're interested in. And then next week will just be sort of an open office hours type conversation, catch up with you. How's it going in your county? What's it look like? What questions you have? And those types of things. So just an effort for us to be more communicative with you. And that's just an example of how we're gonna talk all the time, basically, Tiffany. So. And yeah, if we want, we can send out the 2 o'clock invite to these folks if they have time. If they're not tired of hearing me and Lori talk.
Hey, Glenn, Lori, Trevor here down in
Hey,
Saline
Trevor.
County. Thank you all again so much for putting this on, especially those of us that kind of found out about it, after the fact. So glad that we could attend this presentation and kind of get brought up to speed. But I am curious, since you guys have been at this for quite some time, what has been the smallest committee you've seen, largest, and probably average across the state as far as membership?
Go ahead, Lori. You're the record keeper. Yeah.
Okay, so largest committee, and I should go to the Dollar Tree and get a trophy, but it goes to Johnson County. They have like 38 people on their committee, which we think is a bit much. Smallest committee, I have a couple that just have like 5 people on them. Carroll County, who, they started like back in February, so they were one of our first visits that we went to. They're just it's like the mayors and the towns in the county, and that's like the whole committee. But between those like 5 or 6 people, they have the outreach to reach literally everyone in the county. So those are the kinds of people we're looking for. Glenn didn't mention this, but I do want to point this out. So he kind of touched on the maps and the challenge process and all that. And one of the other big reasons that we really want to create these committees is that in order for challenges to get processed by us, they have to come from an elected official or a nonprofit organization. And we were going to really rely on these county broadband committees to have their county judge be their elected official to help submit the challenges through the challenge process, which will happen later this fall. But we'll lay all the groundwork. There's no reason to freak out about that right now. But we'll definitely have some training and how to read the maps and all that kind of stuff as that process gets more concrete and as we know more about what's going on.
And then just real quick follow-up, because you guys kind of talked about the ABLN. So just to make sure I understand this correctly, the ABLN, will that be where all of the digital navigators convene every 2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
that's
gonna
going to be like our, oh, sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
It's open to everybody, right? So
Yeah.
the digital navigators are invited to the call. All of our members are invited to the call. And we're going to add to, like, the first one for today has been reserved for our county committees. So the folks that'll be on today's call will be folks who are, part of a broadband county committee, right, Lori?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, so that's sort of reserved for our first kickoff call. But like, as we go, we're going to add other folks and other stakeholders to it as well. But yes, I would, if possible, we would always highly encourage our county sort of leaders or county digital navigators to, if they can, get on that call. And we'll send sort of a recap, right, of the call. So we'll do, an ABLN recap email that'll go out to everyone and cover the topics that we talked about. But yeah, we would highly encourage anyone who could attend to get on those biweekly calls if possible. So Daryl's saying that essentially the southern part of Searcy County is getting fiber to the home from Kinetic and Pedaging Electric Cooperative. Do we still need committee members from that part of the county? Look, yeah, I think a couple of years ago, right, the answer from the state broadband office would have been no, because that was the only focus of the state, right, was just the build. But as we talked about today, we're looking at the affordability issue that exists and the digital skills component that's also there, being a more holistic view of what needs to happen. So I would say absolutely, there's going to be folks who live in the southern part of the county who need to enroll in the affordability program, right, and also need some digital skills help as well. So we would encourage, even if a county had 100%, let's say 100% fiber to everyone in the whole county, they're still going to have folks who need affordability outreach. And they're still going to have some folks that need digital skills help as well, right? So yes, short answer is yes. People from all parts of the county.
Glenn, I think that concludes our time. So,
All right. Well, look, just to let everybody, Lori posted the link to the ABLN, our first ABLN call today at 2:00. It's in your chat. So that's available for you to click. And you can also look, if there's other members of your county committee that may not be aware, feel free to send that to them as well. Okay. And look, we look forward to working with you to get this thing accomplished in the next several years. And again, I can't wait. I'm excited. So thank you very much for being here, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you.
yeah, y'all have a good day.